Good evening. My name is Robert Lawrason. I am a student in the 2021 GNO Master Gardener Training course, and the topic I randomly selected for my final presentation was 5 varieties of snap beans. The botanical name for the common bean plant is Phaseolus vulgaris. It originally grew wild and ranged from the Andes Mountains of South America all the way up through the northern Mexico. These beans were so prolific in the region that they came to represent one-third of some indigenous peoples' holy trinity of agricultural sustainability, the three sisters: corn, beans, and squash. There are two main cultivars of Phaseolus vulgaris: pole beans and bush beans. The major differentiation between these cultivars is the way in which they grow. Bush beans are typically found as determinate plants growing lower to the ground with bushy structures. All of their fruits also tend to mature during the same period. Pole beans, on the other hand, have a tendency toward indeterminacy and will almost always require trellising. For beginning gardeners, it should be noted that it generally takes less physical space and setup hardware to grow bush bean varieties, but as they grow closer to the ground, bush beans are historically slightly more susceptible to pest and disease encroachment than their pole climbing friends. For our discussion today, we'll be focusing on 5 different bush bean varieties. When planting Phaseolus vulgaris bush beans, there are a few things to keep in mind. Seedlings will enjoy a consistently moist, airy, well-draining soil that is close to a silty loam texture. Direct sow plantings can occur once the soil reaches 70 to 80 degrees, and seeds will enjoy mycorrhizal inoculation before planting, if you're feeling up to it, at a depth of a half inch to 1 inch, depending on soil texture. It's not recommended to transplant bean seedlings due to weak root structure, and it's been advised to wait for warmer soil planting rather than to lose crop in too cold of an initial planting condition. Seeds can be placed 2 inches apart with rows interspersed approximately 24 inches. Seedlings can be thinned out to 6 inches spacing as needed later on in the season. Major plants can be mulched to 3 to 4 inches for moisture retention in warmer weather. And as common bean plants are nitrogen fixers, it's recommended to be careful of overintroduction of nitrogen into the soil during the growth season. In commercial growth in western states, boron toxicity can also harm snap bean production, but this is not commonly a problem associated with the southeast due to differences in irrigation practices. However, it is recommended to steer clear of boron inclusion in starter fertilizer mixes. Beans hate onions, beans hate garlic, beans hate leeks, beans hate all of their cousins. Plants in the allium family produce a chemical compound called agene, which has a bunch of wonderful antibacterial properties, but will unfortunately kill all of the beneficial bacteria cultures on the roots of the common bean plants. This, in turn, stunts the growth of the plant. Various scientific tests have been conducted to determine safe planting distances, but a best practice for beginners would be to select a different planting bed for any same season alliums. With the soil warming up in our area, the August 2021 issue of GNO Gardening magazine has just come out with a chart suggesting a second round planting of Phaseolus vulgaris is still viable this month. With the knowledge that we can get to gardening literally right now, let's take a look at 5 different varieties of common bush beans LSU Ag is recommending that we throw in the dirt today. The Blue Lake 274 is a very technical sounding meanie boy, but it's actually the most common bean you'll see on the market today. Growers enjoy large, reliable yields from mature plants 10 to 12 inches wide. Self-pollinating white to lavender-colored flowers yield 5 to 6 inch long bean pods after a maturity of 50 to 60 days. The cultivar is resistant to BCMV, and the beans are especially known for retaining their flavor when canned or frozen. These will be most of the green beans that you'll see in the supermarket cans today. The next bean up is the contender bush bean. It's known for early maturation and a large yield of tender beans picked early around 5 inches, though they can grow to 8 inches if left on the vine. This cultivar excels at powdery mildew resistance and has round, slightly curved pods. It has also been bred with some resistance to BCMV. The Derby bush bean produces very tender, straight, deep green pods up to 7 inches long. They are known for how well they hold to the plant, resulting in a more successful yield. Yet, at the same time, individual pods slip very easily from the pedestal for harvest. This cultivar has also been bred to be BCMV resistant. Directly quoting from their website, Bear Bronco beans are highly adaptable to a broad range of growing conditions. Bronco is a straight medium green bean of good quality. It produces a medium to large bush with pods set high in the plant. The bean pods are said to have a waxy, dark green appearance. The cultivar has been bred for a long, fresh market shelf life, meaning it will externally appear fresher for much longer than it actually is, and much longer than other varieties for long distance shipping purposes and display purposes. Bronco beans also have a very high resistance to BCMV and are a preferred chain store variety for fresh sales. Bronco beans are never industrially used for processing, freezing, or canning. Lynx beans are also Bayer products, but they were bred for shipping rather than appearance. Dark green pods contain a high amount of fiber that slows wrinkling between harvest and sale. Lynx have also been bred to have more of a concentrated bean pod set for mechanical harvesting. Lynx snap beans are disease resistant to not only BCMV, but also halo blight and bean rust disease. Now that we've learned a little bit about the 5 types of beans LSU Ag is recommending you plant in your backyard, we need to quickly learn about all of the things that are going to kill them. Firstly, I've been saying BCMV this whole time. What is that? Bean comic mosaic virus is spread by aphids primarily and manifests as an irregular pattern of yellow, light, dark green banding along the veins of the leaves. Foliage may also warp and roll up. There is no treatment for BCMV, which is why most cultivars are bred with resistance. Bean rust is a fungal disease which occurs mostly in wet weather. It is easily spread by wind, but only affects bean crops. The disease manifests as reddish-brown spores, often surrounded in a yellow halo. Fungicides containing mancozeb can be used preventatively. To manage an outbreak, pick diseased leaves before spread and be mindful of physical transmission. Bean blight is the most prevalent bean disease. First signs are small, wet lesions that stretch to the edge of the leaves, becoming brown and papery with a yellow border. Pods will also develop similar patches and produce malformed seed. Common blight is spread through moisture, so proper spacing and less contact during wet days can help curb spread. Blighted plants must be destroyed. Copper based bactericides are considered good preventative practice sprays. Ceratoma trifurcata is a 5 mm adult beetle with distinctive triangular markings at the neck portion. It is native to North America and produces 3 generations per year, feeding on soybean, green bean, pumpkin, and cucumber crops. Root feeding larvae and leaf and pod feeding adults can have a profound impact on development and harvest. Bean leaf beetles can be manually removed and often dropped to the ground when plants are rustled. Pesticides can be used in extreme cases but should be limited. Pyrethrins, neem, spinosad, and carbaryl are also effective treatments, with varying degrees of success for each. So you've learned about 5 different kinds of beans, you know now is the perfect time to plant, and you also know some things to look out for. What about harvesting some beautiful beans? Most of the bean varieties we talked about today are going to take approximately 50 days from seed to harvest. The bean pods can be harvested at approximately the width of a pencil and should be firm to the touch with no bulges. The distinctive namesake snap can also be heard if breaking a fresh pod open right off the plant. Pods should be picked late morning after dew settles, but before beans begin to bulge from their casings. Fresh beans should be used within a week of harvest and can be refrigerated in an aerated plastic bag. My name is Rob Lawrason, and I appreciate you coming with me on this little adventure in beans. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to do my best to help you out with the limited information I did learn while researching one of our oldest and most reliable crops. Just let me know. Thank you very much.